All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Today we've got Ashley Hoffman from the Kentucky Association of Environmental Education. I always want to say KAEE, so when I start to say it out loud, I get my tongue tied. Ashley, how you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. So you're the executive director of KAEE. How long have you been there?
This is my 11th year in this position.
It's been a while.
It has.
So that was, and you moved to Kentucky from where?
From Florida.
From Florida. And I know you and I were talking about that. You went to school down there.
Hmm.
So,
University of Florida.
what did you study while you were in college, and what kind of things did you do as far as projects or getting involved?
So in college, I studied wildlife ecology and conservation, and it's a very hands-on major, so I had a lot of opportunity to do research and hands-on just projects studying different species and some uh, after I graduated, I ended up staying on at the university as in working at the fisheries department there for a while. So,
And what made you decide to go to University of Florida?
it was the best wildlife program in the state of Florida, and I had a scholarship for an in-state school, so I knew that I wanted to go into something with wildlife. I didn't know what or what the opportunities were out there, but I knew that's what I was interested in, so that's where I ended up.
So, this interest in wildlife, you know, did that develop in high school, or was that like a lifelong learning aspect? Tell us about how you got interested in that side of it.
I don't know when it started, to be honest. I know that in third grade, I had a cub club with my friends where we would, adopt animals at the local shelter and raise money for them and stuff. So I'd say it was pretty much a lifelong passion of mine. Just loved being out, learning about animals, just being out in nature. Anything like that was pretty exciting to me. So I knew I wanted to go into something that would allow me to um, work with wildlife and be out there, be outdoors and things like that.
Yeah. And so this Cub Club thing. So what did that involve? You said you adopted a local animal and you raised money for
Yeah,
it.
we would like, I don't, we were strange kids. We would, raise money selling crafts and stuff, and then we would donate it to like the local wildlife sanctuary and adopt a raccoon or something there. And then I think we adopted an acre of rainforest once and um, stuff like that. I don't know. We had a great time. We would like for fun go out and do a creek cleanup.
Mhm.
Um, so that was our idea of fun as kids.
And are you from Florida originally, or
For the most part, I moved there in third grade, but I was military, so I lived in a few states before that.
what branch was your parent in?
We started in the Marines and switched to Air Force.
Okay, I've got a cousin. They're in the Air Force and they're in uh, Louisiana right now. Oh heck,
Okay.
I forget the name of the base, but um, my family's got a long history of it. I didn't go into the Air Force, but my dad was in the Air Force. My grandpa was in the Air Force. My uncle was in the Air Force. So it's got a strong.
Yeah, sounds like my family. Both my
Um,
brothers went in after my dad, so.
do they? Yeah. Um,
Mhm.
so so this was after you graduated. You worked for the fisheries department there at the university, and then you moved to Kentucky for this position. Um, what made as far as like looking at the position and thinking about moving to Kentucky, what kind of thoughts were going through your head about why you were applying for that position and what you liked and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I didn't really know what environmental education was when I started my degree. My first experience with it was I was really interested in fisheries, which is why I had a job in fisheries. And one of my summers in college, I took a position with a group called the Student Conservation Association up in Kodiak, Alaska, teaching at their salmon camp. And that was my first introduction to this concept of environmental education. I was teaching kids to fish, I was teaching them about salmon, all kinds of stuff, and really loved it. I learned that I loved teaching kids. And then later, when I worked for fisheries, we were doing research. And so we would go out and we would be out on boats collecting data, doing seine netting and electro fishing and stuff like that. And people would always come up to us in their boats and want to know what we were doing. And my coworkers would, just be, oh gosh, now we got to talk to more people about why we're doing this. And they weren't really into the whole explaining our research in layman's terms, which to me was one of the best parts of our work was getting to share the importance of the work that we were doing with the public. And I quickly learned that there's a big disconnect there between the research that's happening at universities and the general public actually comprehending the importance of that work and what's happening and the results of those studies and things like that. And that's kind of what led me to wanting to go more into the education side of things to help bridge that gap and help the public understand um, these pretty complex topics in wildlife work and the environment around us and so that coupled with my experience at salmon camp led me to realize that I had a passion for environmental education. And so when I saw this position, I was um, my my husband actually was he had just gotten a position in Kentucky as a biologist, and so I had stayed behind and was looking for a position, and I saw this opportunity to work in environmental education and run a nonprofit, which I had zero experience or knowledge on how to do, and quickly learned I was a little in over my head. Um, but I took that position and loved it, and later went and got a master's in nonprofit administration so that I could at least know how to run the organization I was overseeing. Um, I hung up my waders. That is, I do miss, being out and doing the research, and I had some amazing field experiences in college and shortly after. And I do miss that, but I also feel like the work I'm doing now is really important for what I said earlier, for bridging that disconnect between those two groups. So.
So, that you're there in Kentucky, you're just started at this new job, and you mentioned you didn't have nonprofit management and kind of short up that stuff. What are some of the things that you wish you'd have known or have done as you transitioned from your degree into the workforce with environmental education?
Um,
What are some challenges that you faced?
So, I mean, obviously, my degree in wildlife ecology didn't really help me in this position. It was great to have the background knowledge of why environmental ed was important, but it didn't really help me in terms of running an organization. I had no major skills in that area. So, I don't have any regrets on the path I took, I am thankful that I had the opportunity to go back and pursue additional education in an area that was important to me. I think I could have done this job without pursuing that master's through all the professional development opportunities that would have been available to me, that are available to me. But it did really help to have that. I guess I didn't really know that this was a thing that I could do, as a career, and I think sometimes it was hard to know, like I didn't really have a clear sense of what I wanted to do with my degree after graduation until I kind of got out there and experienced, the fisheries side of things and some of the other I'm really thankful that I did the amount of field work I did in my years in college because it helped me to land where I am now, to learn what I did like and what I didn't like before I, took a full-time position doing something that maybe wasn't something I loved as much as I thought I would, or something like that. So.
Yeah. The and I know from my time involved with the KAE that you're pretty involved elsewhere as well. So as a professional now, where do leading a professional organization or association? Where do you go, and how do you approach your professional development and networking with other association folks, or what I mean? How do you approach that?
Yeah. So I think that the number one most valuable thing I did for myself when I took this position, and really just even in my time in college, was building my own network. So the more I took the opportunities to get engaged with other people doing similar work, whether that was in college, taking, helping out on research projects with grad students, or going on um, service learning opportunities or study abroad or things like that, or now, networking with other people in my field. Those have been the things beyond the books, beyond the classes. Those have been the single most valuable thing that I've done for my own career and my own growth in this position. The extracurricular stuff, And so in this position, I would say the most valuable thing to me has been connecting with the group that's so there's an organization like mine in almost every state,
Mhm.
and connecting with the executive directors of those organizations has moved us ahead leaps and bounds faster than we would have if I hadn't been able to connect with those groups, because there's always someone out there who's already done what I'm trying to do, and I can learn from them rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and start from scratch. And so that network has been a huge resource to me, and I learn from those folks all the time. And even if we haven't done it, we work collaboratively on it. So any new initiative that we're doing, I get on the phone with other executive directors like in other states and talk through that idea with them, and we all work together to implement that. And so most of my learning comes from my peers and working collaboratively with them. Um, and we have the North America Association for Environmental Education, which is our kind of parent overarching umbrella organization for environmental ed in the United States. And so, that's where I meet all these other great folks that are doing the work that I'm doing, and attend that conference. And conferences have been a great opportunity, not just because, there's great sessions, but more than anything, it's the networking that happens in the halls, meeting other people and learning what's going on, and what I can, borrow from what they're doing, and so things like that. So,
I had a buddy.
and I would say that's the same from college to the workforce. The more I've gotten involved, the more it's helped me. And I know I said earlier I didn't have any experience running a nonprofit, so you may be asking, like, well, why did they hire you? And I still ask myself that sometimes. But honestly, it was because of the extracurricular experience I had in college. So, for example, one of the things that we have to do in this job is raise money, and I had experience doing that from running the Wildlife Society,
Mhm.
because I was president of the Wildlife Society in college, and we held a big annual wild game dinner, and we had to get sponsors, and so I had experience hosting a big event, I had experience raising money, I had experience running an association in college. And so if I hadn't taken the time to get involved beyond just doing my classwork, I wouldn't have had what they were looking for to hire me for this position. So.
You're talking about conferences. I know everything's going virtual. I had a buddy that said that the number one thing he missed from conferences is trying to outbid people on the silent auctions. So, and I thought that you're talking about
That's an
talking in the
important, yeah, that's
hallways.
an important
He,
skill to have.
right? He was you're like, I just go around. He goes, some things I didn't even want. I just wanted to outbid somebody. And I was just like,
They do get a little intense sometimes.
yeah.
Yep.
Um, so
That's funny.
I forgot to tell us a little bit about KAEE, what the organization is, what the mission is, and that what y'all do on a in and out basis for your members.
Sure. Well, so we are the professional membership organization for environmental education in Kentucky. Like I said, there's a similar membership association in all of the states. We worked to help environmental educators do more together. So our mission is increasing environmental knowledge and community engagement in Kentucky through education. And so some of the ways we do that is we provide support, resources, and networking opportunities to educators, both formal and non-formal, which is educators out of the classroom, like at nature centers and things like that, parks. Um, and then we provide professional development opportunities for them to continue their learning. We have several different curriculum that we provide around environmental education. We host our annual conference for educators. And then we're doing a lot of work around just the growth of the field as a whole. So looking at, how do we make the field more inclusive? How do we bring together all the great groups that are doing this work in the state to work better together? How do we build the capacity of environmental education? And so we're part of the work that we do in Kentucky, but we're part of this larger network that's working nationwide as well that I mentioned. And there's a lot of great work that happens through that, and it's always changing. I mean, what we're doing from one year to the next is always changing. So um, it's a pretty exciting job. I don't get bored. It's always a new challenge. So and I feel passionate about the work that we're doing. So
When you think about because I know that KAE has several employees, thinking about your role, what are some of the things that you do within the organization? Maybe not on a day-to-day basis, but overall, like what kind of things do you do, and what kind of skills do you have to utilize?
so I would say the most important role I have is being a connector. So when I talked about the importance of networking earlier, I think that's the most important thing I do is my job is to connect all of the different people doing this work in our state with one another. And so that requires a lot of just time meeting people and being, showing our face at events when we were in person
Yeah.
and knowing who's doing what and what's going on and just basically knowing the landscape of what's happening in our state and knowing that this person's working on a similar initiative to this person and we should bring them together. And then I would say the other major thing that I do is just the running of the organization. So a lot of that is the financial resiliency, making sure we have enough funding to pay the staff to continue doing good work and have all the resources that we need and having a great board of directors helping guide our efforts and all that kind of stuff. So it's very different from what I saw myself doing when I pursued a degree in wildlife ecology and said I wanted to spend all my time outside in my waders. Now I spend all my time on a computer, but I mean, I do love what I do, and my favorite part of my job is honestly that I get to meet so many people nationwide. I've met so many great, amazing minds in this job, and people that make me very passionate about the work we're doing because of what I see them doing, and then especially the young people, the students that I see coming up, that give me a lot of hope for what we're accomplishing. So.
So that was going to be my next question: is what are some of your favorite things you do, or favorite parts of your job? Um, is there any other parts that you just really love?
Mm, I mean, I always love when we have the opportunity to come together. That's I love our conference. I love meeting, seeing all these people. I love hearing the presentations and knowing all of this great work that's happening around me. Sometimes it's hard when you're one step removed and you're working by yourself on your laptop all the time to see the true impact of your work.
Yeah.
And so whenever I can, be together with other people and really see that in action, it reinvigorates me and gives me that lift I need to know that we are doing something important. Sometimes you just don't see it
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
So
So the last thing I have before I let you go and let you off the hook, so to speak, you see what I did there, off the hook? Yeah.
I like
Um,
it.
so if somebody, if a young professional or student's thinking, oh, this sounds like a great career path, or what Ashley's doing sounds really cool, I'd like to look into that or consider that. Do you have any tips or advice for young professionals or students that are considering a similar path?
Um, I would say that my experience has been that your degree is not as, I mean, you having a degree is valuable, but the actual degree itself is less important than the experience you get while you're pursuing that degree. So, I think that there's a number of bachelor's I could have had that would have led me to this position still, whether it was still in wildlife ecology or whether it was natural resources or whether it was fisheries or whether it was something totally unrelated. I can't tell you how many environmental educators I've met who like started in a completely different field. Like I was a math major, I did psychology, I was in history, I did English.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that matters so much as the effort you put in getting experience, doing extra, pursuing extra opportunities that help you to be able to show that you have the skills that might be needed for that position, whatever that position is, just being able to demonstrate that you have some sort of skills in that area, I think is the most valuable thing you can do beyond having a degree. So
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and letting me uh, peg you with a couple of questions. Sincerely appreciate it. As always, it's awesome to talk to you. And if you ever need anything, just let me know.
thanks.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.